One small act of kindness feeding a disabled child would catch the eye of a billionaire and change a waitress's life forever. Maria wiped her hands on her apron and glanced at the clock. Another long day at the diner was about to start, and she knew it would be busy. She had worked in this little family restaurant for more than 5 years now. Every morning she put on the same faded apron, tied her hair back in a neat ponytail, and prepared herself for a day full of orders, complaints, smiles, and stories. Maria loved her job, even though it was hard work. She liked meeting new people and listening to the small things that made them happy or upset. Most of all, she liked helping people, even in little ways that didn't get noticed. Today, the restaurant smelled like fresh bread and coffee. The sun shone through the windows, lighting up the simple wooden tables and chairs. Regular customers had already started trickling in, some chatting quietly, some scrolling on their phones, some enjoying a morning newspaper with a cup of tea. Maria moved quickly, serving breakfast plates, refilling coffee cups, and smiling at each person. Had learned to keep calm even when the restaurant was crowded. She could carry 3 plates in one hand, answer questions about the menu, and still remember to smile. Her life was not easy. Maria worked long hours to support her younger brother and her little niece. Their father had passed away years ago, and her mother worked far away. Maria had to take care of everyone, and the diner was her only source of steady income. Some nights she felt exhausted, and sometimes she wondered if she would ever get a break. But she never let that stop her from being kind. Even strangers gave her a sense of purpose. She believed small acts of kindness mattered. Even if no one noticed, they made the world a little better. Around midday, the restaurant door opened, and Maria noticed a new family walking in. They looked different from the usual customers. The father was tall and well-dressed, wearing a crisp suit that looked expensive. His hair was neatly combed, and he carried himself with a quiet confidence that made everyone around him notice. Him without meaning to. Behind him was a boy, around 8 or 9 years old. He had soft brown hair and big, curious eyes, but Maria quickly saw that he moved differently. His hand shook slightly, and he needed help walking. Maria realized the boy was disabled. She had served many children in her career. But something about this boy made her heart ache with sympathy and admiration at the same time. The father smiled politely at Maria and led the boy to a table near the window. Maria approached with a notepad and a smile, trying to keep her voice calm and cheerful. "Good afternoon. My name's Maria, and I'll be taking care of you today." "Hi. Can I get you something to drink first?" she asked. The father glanced at the menu briefly, but then shook his head. "No, thank you. Just water for him, please," he said softly, pointing to his son. Maria nodded and poured a glass of water, careful not to spill. The boy watched her silently, his eyes full of curiosity, but also a hint of shyness. Maria knelt slightly to be closer to him. "Hi there," she said gently. "I'm Maria. What's your name?" The boy's lips curved into a small smile. "Ethan," he whispered. "Hi, Ethan. That's a wonderful name," Maria said. She felt a warmth in her chest as she saw him relax a little. She could see that Ethan had trouble with his hands, and she realized that even holding a fork or cup might be difficult for him. Maria had helped children like this before, but every child was different. She wanted to make sure he felt comfortable, safe, and respected. The father noticed Maria's careful attention. He had seen many people look at his son and quickly assume things about him, but Maria didn't. She treated Ethan like any other child. She smiled, spoke gently, and made sure he could reach his water glass without struggling. He sipped it slowly, his small hands shaking slightly as he held it. Maria watched him with quiet patience, ready to help if needed, but giving him space to try on his own. As the lunch hour began, more customers came in. The diner became loud with the clatter of plates, chatter of families, and the smell of sizzling bacon. Maria moved quickly between tables, but she kept an eye on Ethan and his father. She noticed the father's eyes watching her every move, not in a way that made her uncomfortable, but in a way that made her feel seen. He wasn't just a wealthy man eating lunch. He was a father who cared deeply about his son, and who appreciated kindness when he saw it. Maria went back to the kitchen to prepare Ethan's meal. She carefully cut pieces of chicken and vegetables into small bites, thinking ahead about how she could make it easier for him to eat. She remembered a child she had helped last year who had difficulty with utensils and had learned a few tricks to make mealtime easier. Maria smiled quietly to herself. She liked helping children, especially those who needed patience and understanding. It made her feel like she was doing something important in a world that often moved too fast. When she returned to the table with Ethan's plate, she saw him struggling slightly with the fork. Maria gently knelt down beside him again. "Here, Ethan," she said softly. "Let me help you with the first bite, then you can try the next one." She guided his hand carefully, showing him how to hold the fork more steadily. Ethan's eyes looked at her with a mixture of concentration and relief. The father watched quietly, his expression unreadable but attentive. Other customers noticed too, some glancing with curiosity, some with admiration. Maria didn't care about the attention. She was focused on Ethan. Slowly, with Maria's help, he started eating a little on his own, gaining confidence with each bite. Maria spoke gently to him, encouraging words that made him smile and laugh softly. By the time Ethan finished his lunch, Maria felt a sense of quiet satisfaction. She had helped him enjoy a meal without stress, without frustration. She had seen the boy's small victories, and it made her heart full. The father thanked her quietly, his voice warm and sincere. "Thank you," he said. "You've made this such a positive experience for Ethan." Maria simply smiled, brushing off the praise. She was used to people thanking her, but this felt different. There was something in his eyes that made her feel that her small acts of kindness were truly recognized. As the family left the diner, Maria returned to her tasks. She felt a strange mix of emotions: happiness for helping Ethan, but also a quiet sense that her ordinary day had just changed in a small, important way. She didn't know it yet, but the father had noticed her patience, her kindness, and her natural ability to care for someone in need. He would remember this day just as Maria would, in a way that would affect both their lives in the future. Maria wiped the counter, served another coffee, and smiled at the next customer, feeling a little lighter than before. She thought about her own struggles, her family, and the long hours ahead, but also about the small moments that made life meaningful. Helping Ethan today reminded her why she worked so hard and why she believed in kindness. Little did she know, this ordinary day, filled with small acts of care, was about to lead her into an extraordinary change she never imagined. The next day, Maria woke up before sunrise, as usual. Her body ached from yesterday's long shift, but her mind kept replaying the small moments with Ethan, the boy she had helped eat at the diner. She couldn't stop thinking about his gentle smile, the way he concentrated on every bite, and the quiet pride in his father's eyes. Maria shook her head and chuckled softly. "Why am I thinking about this so much?" she asked herself, pouring a cup of coffee. She knew she couldn't ignore the feeling, though. Something about that family had stayed with her, like a tiny spark lighting up her ordinary life. As she prepared for her morning shift, Maria's younger brother Luis teased her. "You're daydreaming again, Maria? You're always thinking about everyone else. What about you?" Maria smiled but didn't reply. She knew he was right. She often put everyone else first: her niece, her family, her customers. But moments like yesterday reminded her that sometimes being kind to others could lead to unexpected surprises. The diner was busy again, with the usual rush of morning: coffee, breakfast orders, and clinking dishes. Maria moved between tables, her hands skilled and quick. She greeted the regulars warmly, remembering their favorite drinks and how they liked their eggs cooked. She loved knowing people, even in little ways, and the diners seemed to love her in return. Yet Maria's mind drifted back to Ethan and his father. She remembered the way he had watched her carefully, not just with politeness but with admiration. Something about that gaze had made her feel recognized in a way she rarely did. Around noon, the doorbell jingled, and Maria's heart skipped a beat. She looked up, hoping to see the family again. And there they were, TThen and his father, walking slowly into the diner. The father's suit was a little lighter in color this time, but he still had the same calm and confident demeanor. Ethen was smiling, holding his father's hand, and this time he seemed more relaxed. Maria's stomach did a little flip. She didn't know why she felt nervous, but she did. Maybe it was because she remembered how important patience and care had been yesterday, and she wanted to help them feel comfortable again. The father led them to the same table near the window. Maria approached with a warm smile. "Welcome back. So good to see you again," she said cheerfully. Ethen looked at her and gave a small wave. Maria knelt slightly, meeting his eyes. "Hi, Ethen. Are you hungry today?" she asked gently. Ethen nodded, a small smile forming on his lips. Maria could see his hands trembling slightly as he reached for the menu. But she knew she would help him if needed, just like yesterday. As Maria began taking their order, she noticed other customers glancing at the family. Some whispered quietly, and some looked curious. Maria ignored them, focusing entirely on Ethen and his father. She could sense that the father was watching her closely again, observing how she interacted with his son. Maria felt a mixture of pride and nervousness. She wanted to do everything right, but she also wanted to be herself. She wanted Ethen to feel safe, happy, respected, not like he was being treated differently because of his disability. When the food arrived, Maria carefully set down Ethen's plate and watched him struggle slightly with the fork. Without a word, she knelt beside him and gently guided his hand to take the first bite. Ethen's eyes looked at her with concentration and trust. Maria smiled softly. "You're doing great," she whispered. "I'll help with the first bite, and then you try the next one." Ethen nodded and took a small bite with her guidance. His father watched quietly, his expression calm but attentive. Maria noticed something in his eyes, a mixture of gratitude and admiration, the kind of look that didn't need words. Maria stayed by Ethen's side, speaking softly, encouraging him to take each bite carefully. She told little stories about breakfast foods, about funny moments from her own childhood, and even joked a little about how pancakes could be silly sometimes. Ethen giggled, a small sound that filled Maria's heart with warmth. She could see that he was enjoying himself, not just the food, but the attention, the patience, and the care she was giving him. Meanwhile, the father's gaze followed every movement. He noticed how Maria never rushed Ethen, never looked impatient, and never made him feel different from any other child. He had seen many people treat his son with pity or awkwardness, but Maria's natural kindness and patience were rare. He felt a deep respect growing in him, not just for her skill in helping his son, but for her heart. He wanted to let her know that he had noticed, but he also didn't want to embarrass her in front of the other customers. As Ethen finished his meal, Maria carefully helped him clean up. She made sure he had a napkin for his hands and helped him place his fork gently on the plate. "All done," she said softly, smiling. Ethen looked up at her and smiled back, his eyes bright and happy. The father spoke quietly. "Thank you, Maria. You have a very special way with him," he said. Maria felt her cheeks warm. She wasn't used to receiving such praise, especially from someone so composed and successful. Maria returned to her tasks, moving between tables, serving other customers. But she couldn't stop thinking about the father's words. They echoed in her mind like a melody she didn't want to forget. She felt proud, yes, but also curious. Who was this man who noticed her kindness in a way no one else had? Why did it feel like this ordinary day was becoming extraordinary? During a short break, Maria stepped outside to catch her breath. The sun was warm on her face, and she leaned against the wall, thinking about her life. She worked hard every day, juggling responsibilities, barely making ends meet, and often feeling invisible to the world. Yet today, she felt seen. Someone had noticed the small acts of care she gave. Without expecting anything in return, someone had noticed her heart. Back inside, father quietly asked to speak to her for a moment while Ethen played with a small toy he had brought from home. Maria approached, a little nervous but smiling. "Is everything okay?" she asked. Politely, the father smiled warmly. "Yes," he said. "Just wanted to tell you that the way you treated Ethen today, it was remarkable. Patience, kindness, understanding. It's rare to see that. You didn't just help him eat. You made him feel safe and happy. Maria blinked, surprised. She had helped many children before. She had never received such a sincere acknowledgement. She smiled softly, almost embarrassed. "Thank you," she said quietly. I tried to do my best. I know how hard it can be for some kids, and I want them to feel comfortable." The father nodded. "I can see that. And I want you to know that what you did today, it matters. More than you know." Maria felt a strange mixture of emotions, pride, humility, and curiosity. She didn't fully understand why this moment felt so significant, but she sensed that something was about to change. The father returned to his seat and Maria continued her work, serving other customers, but her mind kept drifting back to their conversation. She wondered what it meant to be noticed in this way. She wondered if anyone else ever truly saw her heart. The rest of the day passed in a blur of orders, plates, and polite conversations. Maria felt a quiet energy inside her, a feeling that this ordinary day had become extraordinary. She thought about Ethan's smile, the father's admiration, and the small moments of connection that made life meaningful. When the family finally left the diner, the father handed her a small card with a simple note. "Thank you for your kindness. You have a rare gift. M." Maria held the card in her hands, her heart pounding. She didn't know what to do with it. She didn't understand why it mattered so much, but she felt a deep sense of recognition, like someone had finally seen her for who she truly was. She tucked the card into her apron pocket, determined to hold on to the feeling and remember that small acts of care could make a big difference. That night, as Maria lay in bed, she thought about the day over and over. She smiled, remembering Ethan's laugh, the way his father looked at her, and the card she now held like a treasure. Something had shifted inside her. She realized that kindness was not just a duty or a habit, it was powerful. It could touch lives, change moments, perhaps even change the course of her own life. Maria didn't know it yet, but this simple act of helping a child eat had set into motion a series of events that would change her life forever. The father had seen her heart, and he would not forget it. And Maria, in her humble, hard-working way, had no idea that the ordinary day she thought she was living would soon become the turning point she had never expected. The morning sun filtered gently through the small kitchen window as Maria prepared for another busy day at the diner. She had woken up early, as usual, feeling the same tiredness in her muscles that came from long hours of work, but also the quiet excitement of yesterday lingering in her mind. She couldn't stop thinking about the father and his son. Ethan, the small card he had left her, burned in her pocket like a secret treasure. Every time she looked at it, she felt a strange mix of pride, humility, and curiosity. The time to notice her? Why had he made her feel so special? Maria couldn't explain it, but she knew that the memory of him watching her and Ethan, and the simple words he had written, had made her feel alive in a way she hadn't felt in years. The diner was already busy when Maria arrived. The smell of fresh bread and sizzling bacon filled the air, and the clatter of dishes and chatter of customers created a familiar, comforting rhythm. Maria moved quickly between tables, taking orders, refilling coffee cups, and smiling at familiar faces. She loved this rhythm, even if it was tiring. She loved seeing regulars come back day after day, hearing their stories, and sharing small moments of laughter. But all the while, her mind kept drifting back to Ethan and his father. She wondered what it would be like to have someone notice her the way he did. Around mid-morning, the door jingled, and Maria looked up automatically. Her heart skipped a beat as she saw the father and Ethan walking in once more. This time, the father was alone for a moment, speaking softly to Ethan as he held his hand and guided him through the entrance. Maria's stomach fluttered with nervous anticipation. She walked over to greet them. "Good morning. So nice to see you again," she said warmly. Kneeling slightly to meet Ethan's eyes, Ethan's face lit up when he saw her, and he waved enthusiastically. Maria smiled, feeling a warmth she couldn't quite describe. "Are you ready for lunch?" she asked gently. Ethan nodded, and the father smiled, his eyes reflecting quiet admiration. Maria noticed that he was watching her closely again, not in a way that made her nervous, but in a way that made her feel valued. She didn't understand why his attention felt so important, but she felt a strange connection, forming a connection that went beyond the usual customer and waitress relationship. As she took their order, Maria noticed how carefully the father spoke about Ethan's needs, and how politely he treated her. He wasn't just polite because it was expected. There was a genuine warmth in his tone. Maria felt her heart lift. She had served many wealthy customers before, but few had shown such respect and consideration. She realized that this family was different. They weren't just another customer. They were people who cared, and they had noticed her kindness. When the food arrived, Maria carefully set Ethan's plate in front of him. She knelt beside him, gently guiding his hands as he took the first bite. Ethan's eyes were focused on her, and a small smile spread across his face. Maria spoke softly, encouraging him, joking a little about the food and telling small stories. To make him laugh, Ethan giggled, and Maria felt her heart swell. She had seen children smile before, but there was something special about Ethan's laugh, a mix of trust, happiness, and relief. The father watched silently, leaning slightly back in his chair. Maria noticed the subtle way he observed her, not just her actions, but her manner, her patience, her heart. He had seen many people in his life, but few had touched him like Maria did. He wanted to say something, to let her know how much he appreciated her, but he didn't want to embarrass her in front of others. Instead, he simply watched, his admiration growing with every small act of kindness she showed to his son as Ethan finished his meal. Maria helped him clean up, making sure his hands and face were tidy. "All done," she said gently. Ethan looked at her and smiled, a bright, genuine smile that lit up the whole table. The father leaned forward slightly and spoke softly. "Maria, I want to thank you. You've been wonderful with Ethan. You have a gift, patience, understanding, kindness. Not many people have this. You made his meal happy and easy, and that means more than words can say." Maria felt her cheeks warm. She wasn't used to such direct praise, especially from someone she barely knew. "Thank you," she said quietly, almost embarrassed. I try to help, that's all." She felt the sincerity of his words, and it struck her deeply. She had spent years working hard, caring for others, and often feeling unnoticed. But here was someone who had seen her heart, truly seen her, and it made her feel valued in a way she hadn't felt in a long time. After the family left, Maria returned to her tasks, but she couldn't stop thinking about the father's words. They echoed in her mind, giving her a strange, comforting energy. Something had changed inside her. She realized that even small acts of kindness could have a profound effect, not just on others, but on herself.
Ow.
She began to wonder if there was more to life than just working hard, struggling, and barely making ends meet. Perhaps there was a way for her life to be different, for her efforts to be noticed in a meaningful way. Later that day, while Maria was cleaning tables and serving coffee, the father returned, but this time, alone. Maria's heart skipped a beat when she saw him approaching. He smiled warmly. "Maria, may I speak with you for a moment?" he asked politely. Maria nodded, feeling a mix of curiosity and nervousness. She followed him to a quiet corner of the diner. "I hope I'm not interrupting," he began. "I just wanted to say again how much I appreciate the way you care for Ethan. It's rare to see someone so patient and kind. And most people, they just serve food or they get impatient with him. But you see him as a person. And that is remarkable." Maria felt a lump in her throat. She had never been praised like this before. She worked hard every day, but it was usually unnoticed. She didn't know how to respond. "You really make a difference," he continued. "Not just to Ethan, but to anyone who sees your heart in action. You have a gift, Maria, and I think the world should see it too." Maria's eyes widened slightly. She wasn't sure she understood what he meant. Her kindness was just part of who she was, nothing extraordinary. But here was a man, a stranger, with wealth and influence, telling her that her actions mattered, that they were special. Maria's mind raced. She thought about her family, about her struggles, about the life she had built for herself and those she loved. She had never imagined that someone would notice her in this way. She had never imagined that her life could change because of simple acts of kindness. Yet as she looked at the father's eyes, she realized that he was serious. Wasn't just being polite. He truly saw her, and he wanted her to see herself as someone remarkable. Over the next few days, Father continued to return to the diner, sometimes with TThen, sometimes alone. He and Maria spoke briefly each time, and each conversation left her feeling inspired and curious. He would ask about her day, about her family, about her dreams. Maria had never talked about her dreams before. She had always been too busy surviving to think about what she truly wanted. But now, with his encouragement, she began to imagine a life beyond the diner, began to wonder what she could achieve if someone believed in her. One afternoon, the father approached her again, holding a small envelope. "Maria, I've been thinking," he said, his voice warm. "I want to offer you an opportunity, something that could help you and your family in ways I can't even imagine. It's not much, but it's a start. You have a rare heart, Maria. I want to see where it can take you." Maria took the envelope, her hands trembling slightly. She didn't know what it contained, but she felt a surge of hope, excitement, and fear all at once. She opened it carefully and found a note with an invitation to meet him personally, too. Discuss a possible opportunity for work or training that could change her life. Maria's heart raced. She had never imagined that her ordinary life could be touched by something so extraordinary. She thought about her family, about the struggles they faced, and about the possibility of giving them a better future. She knew it would be scary. She knew it would be a challenge. But she also knew that this was a chance she couldn't ignore. That night, Maria sat on her small bed, staring at the envelope. She felt nervous and excited at the same time. She thought about TThen's smile, the father's eyes, and the way she had felt truly seen for the first time in her life. She realized that this moment was more than just an opportunity. It was a turning point. She could choose to stay in the life she knew, working hard but unseen, or she could take a step into something unknown, something that might change everything. Finally, Maria made her decision. She folded the note carefully, placing it in her pocket. Tomorrow, she would meet him. Tomorrow, her life could begin to change. She didn't know exactly how, but she knew one thing: kindness, patience, and heart had brought her to this moment. And that was something no one could ever take away from her. The next morning, Maria woke up with a mixture of excitement and nervousness. Today was the day she would meet the father to discuss the opportunity he had offered her. She had spent the night imagining what it might be, an opportunity to improve her skills, a chance to work in a new field, or maybe even a small scholarship. Her heart raced with possibilities, but at the same time, fear crept in. She had spent her whole life working hard, but she had never been in a situation like this before. What if she wasn't good enough? What if she made a mistake? Maria brushed her hair back, pulled on her cleanest outfit, and took a deep breath. She looked at herself in the small mirror above her dresser. "You've worked hard for everything you have," she whispered to herself. "You deserve this chance." She smiled, trying to push away the nervous thoughts. This was more than just an opportunity. It was a recognition of who she was, a validation of all the patience, kindness, and effort she had put into her life. When she arrived at the location he had mentioned, Maria was surprised. It wasn't a fancy office or a big building as she had imagined. It was a smaller, quiet place, comfortable and welcoming, with soft lighting and cozy furniture. She felt immediately at ease. The father greeted her warmly, as if she were an old friend rather than someone he had only met a few times. "Maria, thank you for coming," he said, smiling. "I hope the journey wasn't difficult." Maria shook her head. "No, not at all." "Thank you for inviting me," she said politely. She noticed TThen sitting quietly nearby, coloring in a small notebook. He looked up at her and smiled, giving her a shy wave. Maria felt a warmth in her chest. Seeing TThen happy and relaxed reminded her why this moment mattered, not just for her, but for the family who had touched her heart. Father motioned for her to sit down. "Maria, I want to talk to you about something important," he began. "Yesterday and the day before, I saw something in you that is rare. Your patience, your kindness, your ability to care without judgment, it's something special. I don't know if you realize it, but it's a gift. And gifts like this deserve to be nurtured." Maria felt a lump in her throat. She'd never been called special before, and the words made her feel both proud and vulnerable. He continued, "I want to offer you an opportunity to grow, to learn, and to do something meaningful with your life. It could be a training program, a job, or even a small scholarships. Something that could help you take the next step in a way you might not have imagined before." Maria's mind raced. She had never been offered anything like this. She had never been given the chance to step into a world beyond the diner, beyond the long hours and the constant struggle. And now it was here, right in front of her. Maria tried to speak, but words failed her. Her throat felt tight, and her hands trembled slightly. I don't know what to say," she finally managed. I've never had a chance like this before. I don't know if I can." She stopped, feeling embarrassed. The father smiled kindly. "You don't need to have all the answers right now," he said gently. "I'm not expecting perfection. I just want to give you a chance to see what you can do, to grow, and to make a difference. Not just for yourself, but for others as well. You've already shown that you have the heart for it. Now it's time to see what else you can do." Maria thought about her family, her younger brother, her niece, and the life she had been supporting on her own. She thought about the long hours, the tired nights, and the constant struggle to make ends meet. When she thought about Ethan and his father and the small moments that had brought her to this point, she realized that this was more than just an opportunity for herself. It was a chance to create a better future for the people she loved. "But it's scary," she admitted quietly. "I've never done anything like this before. What if I fail?" The father leaned forward slightly, his expression calm and reassuring. "Maria, fear is normal. Everyone feels it when they step into the unknown. The important thing is not to let fear stop you. You've already shown courage just by being kind, by helping Ethan, by doing your job with heart every single day. This is just the next step." Maria took a deep breath, trying to calm the whirlwind of emotions inside her. She felt nervous, yes, but also excited. She felt a spark of hope that she hadn't felt in years. She realized that this was a turning point, a moment that could change the course of her life if she was brave enough to take it. The father handed her a folder with details about the opportunity. "Take your time to read through this," he said. "Think about it, discuss it with your family if you need to, and then let me know if you're ready. There's no rush. But I believe in you, Maria, and I hope you will believe in yourself, too." Maria accepted the folder with trembling hands, feeling the weight of possibility in her lap. As she walked home, Maria's mind was full of thoughts. She imagined herself in a new place, learning new skills, meeting new people, and creating a life that was more than just work and struggle. She imagined being able to support her family in ways she had only dreamed of, and maybe even inspiring others through her actions. And yet doubts lingered. What if she wasn't good enough? What if she failed? What if this opportunity was beyond her reach? That evening, Maria sat with her younger brother and niece, sharing the news carefully. I might have a chance to do something new," she said quietly, placing the folder on the table. Luis looked at her in surprise. "Something new? What do you mean?" he asked. Maria explained that a family who came to the diner had noticed her kindness and offered her an opportunity to grow, learn, and possibly improve her life and the life of their family. Her niece's eyes sparkled with excitement. "Wow, Aunt Maria, that's amazing," she said. Luis nodded slowly, still processing the news. "It's a big step," he said thoughtfully. "But you've worked hard all your life. You deserve a chance like this." Maria smiled, feeling a warmth in her heart. She realized that her family believed in her, even when she had doubted herself. Their support gave her strength. Over the next few days, Maria read through the folder carefully, going over every detail, every requirement, and every possibility. She studied the program, imagining herself learning new skills, meeting new people, and growing into a person she had never dreamed of becoming. She felt nervous, but also inspired. She knew that fear was natural, but she also knew that opportunity rarely knocked twice. Finally, Maria made her decision. She would take the chance. She would step into the unknown, face her fears, and embrace the possibility of change. She realized that this was not just about her, it was about her family. It's about her own potential, and about the impact she could make on the world around her. The next day, Maria returned to the father, folder in hand, her heart pounding. I've decided, she said, her voice trembling slightly. I want to take the opportunity. I want to try. I'm scared, but I'm ready. The father's eyes lit up with warmth and pride. Maria, I'm so glad, he said softly. You've made a brave choice. This is the first step towards something amazing. Maria felt a rush of emotion, relief, excitement, and hope. All at once, she knew that the journey ahead would be challenging, that she would face doubts, fears, and obstacles. But she also knew that she had taken the first step. She had embraced the opportunity that her kindness had brought her. She was ready to see where it would lead. As she walked home that evening, Maria felt a lightness she hadn't felt in years. She thought about TThen, about his father, about the small moments that had brought her to this point. She realized that kindness, patience, and heart had opened a door for her, one that could change everything. And she felt ready to walk through it, knowing that her life would never be the same again. The day Maria began her new journey, she felt a mix of nervousness and excitement, unlike anything she had ever experienced. She woke up early, her heart racing with anticipation. Today was the start of a life she had only imagined in quiet moments, dreams. Whispered to herself late at night when the diner was empty and the house was silent. She took a deep breath in front of the mirror, straightened her simple clothes, and whispered, "You can do this. You've worked too hard to let fear stop you now." The father greeted her warmly when she arrived. "Good morning, Maria," he said with a smile. "I'm proud of you for taking this step. Today is the beginning." His words were encouraging, but Maria still felt a flutter of doubt in her stomach. She wondered if she was truly ready for the changes about to come. She was leaving behind the life she had always known, the diner, her family, her familiar routine, and stepping into something completely new. Yet, as she looked at him and saw the trust in his eyes, she felt a spark of confidence. She wasn't alone in this journey. The first few days were challenging. Maria had to learn things she had never imagined. New skills, new systems, and even new ways of thinking. At first, she stumbled over tasks, made small mistakes, and doubted herself constantly. Each night when she returned home, she felt exhausted, both physically and mentally. Yet she also felt a quiet sense of accomplishment. She realized that she was capable of learning, of adapting, of pushing beyond her comfort zone. And every time she thought about TThen and his father, she remembered why she was doing this, not just for herself, but for her family and for the chance to honor the recognition she had received for her kindness. The father continued to guide her patiently. He offered advice, encouragement, and small lessons along the way. Maria noticed that he didn't treat her like someone inexperienced or unskilled. Instead, he treated her like a partner, someone whose heart and potential mattered more than any mistake she might make. His approach gave her confidence. She felt that she was finally being seen for who she truly was. Not just as a hard-working waitress struggling to make ends meet, but as a person with talent, kindness, and the ability to grow. As the weeks passed, Maria began to notice changes in herself. She became more confident, more aware of her own abilities, and more willing to take risks. Tasks that once seemed impossible now felt achievable. She realized that her heart, the patience and kindness she had always shown, was one of her greatest strengths. People responded to her in ways she had never expected. She began to understand that her life could be more than just work and struggle. It could be about growth, impact, and meaningful connections. Her family noticed the changes too. Wheeze, her younger brother, saw the way Maria carried herself with newfound confidence. "You look different," he said one evening, as she returned home after a long day. Not in a bad way, better, I think. Happier. Maria smiled, feeling a warmth in her chest. She realized that her happiness wasn't just about money or opportunity, it was about feeling recognized, valued, and capable of creating a better future. Her niece looked up to her with admiration, was proud that her aunt was achieving something extraordinary. Maria also began to see changes in her own perspective. She realized that small acts of kindness could lead to unexpected opportunities, not because she sought them, but because they came naturally from her heart. Feeding Ethan at the diner had seemed like a simple gesture, but it had led to a life-changing chain of events. She understood that every act of care, patience, and attention to others mattered even if no one noticed at the time. Life had a way of rewarding genuine goodness in ways that were sometimes slow to reveal themselves, but powerful when they did. As Maria grew in confidence and skill, she began to contribute more meaningfully to the projects and opportunities the father had introduced her to. She suggested ideas, solved problems, and demonstrated creativity and empathy in ways that impressed even the most experienced professionals around her. Each small success reinforced her belief in herself. She began to see that her background, her struggles, her hardships, her life as a waitress wasn't a limitation. Instead, it had shaped her heart, her determination, and her unique perspective. Months passed, and Maria's life began to feel completely different. She had more stability, more purpose, and more hope for the future. She could now provide better for her family, and the pride she saw in their eyes was a source of joy she had never known. She had grown not just professionally, but personally. She had learned to trust herself, to embrace challenges, and to see the value in her own character. Every day reminded her that the simple kindness she had shown to Ethan had been the starting point of this incredible transformation. One day, the father invited Maria to a small gathering. She arrived, unsure of what to expect, but was greeted warmly by people who were curious to meet her. As she spoke with them, she realized how far she had come. She could now engage confidently, share her ideas, and inspire others. She noticed that her kindness and empathy were now strengths that complemented her growing skills and knowledge. People responded to her with respect and interest. She felt proud not just for herself, but for all the struggles and small victories that had brought her here. Maria also reconnected with Ethan in meaningful ways. He had grown comfortable around her, and their bond remained strong. She realized that the simple act of feeding him at the diner had not only helped him in the moment, but it also shaped a lifelong connection. She had made a difference in his life, just as the father and his family had made a difference in hers. Their mutual care and respect were a reminder of how deeply human kindness could transform lives. The father noticed the transformation too. He often watched Maria quietly, seeing the confidence, skill, and compassion she now carried with her. "You've grown so much," he said one day, his voice full of warmth. "Not just in your work, but in yourself. You've taken what you were given and turned it into something extraordinary. You've shown courage, heart, and determination. I always knew you could do it." Maria felt tears prick at her eyes. She had worked hard, struggled, and sometimes doubted herself. But hearing those words validated every moment she had ever given to others without expecting anything in return. Maria knew that her life would never be the same. She had stepped through a door that had seemed impossible, embraced change despite fear, and discovered the depth of her own potential. She realized that her journey was just beginning, but she felt ready. She had learned that life could be transformed through kindness, patience, encouraging that sometimes small gestures could lead to the most extraordinary opportunities. She also recognized the ripple effect of her transformation. Her family had benefited, her confidence had grown, and her influence on others was increasing. She began to mentor others in small ways, sharing her experiences and encouraging kindness and perseverance. She realized that the life she now had was not just for herself, but for everyone she could touch through her actions, her words, and her heart. One quiet evening, Maria sat by the window in her small apartment, reflecting on how much her life had changed in such a short time. She thought about the day she had fed Ethan at the diner, the moment that had seemed so ordinary at the time. She realized that it had been extraordinary in its own way, the spark that started everything. From that one act of compassion had come recognition, opportunity, growth, and transformation. She smiled softly, feeling gratitude for the journey she had taken, and for the people who had believed in her when she was still learning to believe in herself. Maria knew that she would never forget the lessons she had learned. Life was full of challenges, yes, but it was also full of chance and beauty. Every small act of kindness could lead to remarkable changes, and every moment mattered more than one could ever imagine. She felt hope, strength, and joy in her heart, knowing that her future was no longer limited by fear or circumstance. She had changed. Her life had changed. And she was ready to embrace all that lay ahead. Her journey had begun with a simple gesture feeding a child who needed care, and it had led to a complete transformation of her life. Maria understood now that true success was not measured by wealth or status, but by heart, courage, and the willingness to embrace opportunity when it came. She had proven to herself that she could rise above challenges, create meaningful change, and inspire others along the way. And so Maria's life moved forward, brighter, fuller, and richer in ways she had never imagined. She had become a living example of how kindness, patience, and courage could open doors to incredible opportunities, and she carried this knowledge with her every day. Her story became one of hope, transformation, and the enduring power of the human heart, a story that began with a small act of compassion and grew into a life that would never be the same again, showing Maria's full transformation, her personal growth, the impact on her family, and a satisfying emotional resolution.